Did President Trump really intend to abuse the power of his office? Well, that was the central question today on day 3 of his trial.
House Democrats spent 8 hours building their case that the Ukraine scandal was planned, orchestrated, and covered up by the president with intent. But the president and his supporters say Democrats haven't proven anything, and many are predicting a quick end to the trial. Randy Page joins us now in studio with the very latest in all this.
Randy.
2/3 of the way through, guys. One more day to go tomorrow. Another full day today with House managers who spent much of their time laying out their offense while anticipating the defense of President Trump's lawyers. In day 2 of the impeachment trial, House managers took on an important question. Did the president have corrupt and impeachable intent when he asked Ukraine to investigate his potential political opponent?
Chief Justice, and thank you to the senators.
Lead House Manager Adam Schiff laid out his case. First, Schiff said witnesses testified President Trump appeared to only care about the public announcement of the investigations, not the investigations themselves.
Well, they would have to announce that they were going to do it.
Right, because Giuliani and President Trump didn't actually care if they did them, right?
The only thing I heard from Mr. Giuliani or otherwise was that they had to be announced in some form.
Congressman Schiff said the president made it clear he wanted the investigations for his personal benefit, as articulated by his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who told the New York Times, "Somebody could say it's improper, and this isn't foreign policy. The information will be very, very helpful to my client." And by the president himself.
Well, I would think that if they were honest about it, they'd start a major investigation into the Bidens. It's a very simple answer.
The only thing President Trump cared about with Ukraine was his investigations to benefit himself.
That investigating the Bidens was never a part of official U.S. foreign policy.
I found the July 25th phone call unusual because, in contrast to other presidential calls I had observed, it involved discussion of what appeared to be a domestic political matter.
Schiff told the Senate jurors the request of investigations did not involve U.S. government channels either. And when President Trump told President Zelensky during the phone call to follow up with Rudy Giuliani and Attorney General Bill Barr, the Justice Department disavowed any knowledge of the operation.
The Justice Department wanted nothing to do with it, and by asking for these investigations, the president was abusing his power.
Schiff said National Security and State Department staffers immediately reported the July 25th phone call between Presidents Trump and Zelensky to lawyers.
You would agree, right, that asking a foreign government to investigate a domestic political rival is inappropriate, would you not?
It's not what we recommended the president discuss.
And Congressman Schiff added the White House tried to bury the call record.
Why were they trying to hide what the president did? This was U.S. policy. If they were proud of it, if they were really interested in corruption, if this was about corruption, if this had nothing to do with the president's reelection campaign, if Biden was merely an interesting coincidence, why did they bury the record? Why did they hide the record? Innocent people don't behave that way.
Today, Republican lawmakers defended the president, saying they will have a lot more to say about this when it's their turn.
He wanted to make sure that American taxpayer dollars were spent wisely and as good stewards overseas. And this was a part of that. I don't know why that is something that the House Democrats can never understand or don't want to understand, but it's a central part of the case here, and you'll hear more about that when our case is presented.
President Trump defended himself today in a series of tweets accusing Democrats of spreading lies and misrepresentations. One Trump confidant told CBS News that GOP senators have been warned, vote against the president and your head will be on a pike. So far, it appears they've gotten the message.
Schiff has said, we've heard before.
I didn't hear anything new.
They're already repeating the same points they made for 13 hours yesterday.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer cited a new Reuters poll showing 7 in 10 Americans want the trial to feature witnesses. He's hoping 4 out of 53 Republicans will agree with him.
I am more hopeful than ever that 4 conscientious, brave Republicans will come forward and tell Mitch McConnell, you can't shut this down without witnesses, you can't shut this down without documents.
Well, tomorrow, House managers will have just under 8 hours to wrap up their case. Then it's the Republicans' turn. They could start Saturday or wait until Monday. But some Republicans predict the trial will move very quickly next week with a possible vote by the end of next week.
All right, Randy, thank you.